The notification chimed with the sound of cut crystal, a soft, expensive ping that never failed to send a thrill through Elara Vance. It was the sound of possibility, curated and exclusive. The sound of Aether, the dating app so elite it required a 7-page application and a 6-figure income just to be considered for the waitlist. Elara, curled on her dove-gray sofa in her minimalist high-rise apartment, swiped a lock of honey-blonde hair from her face and reached for her phone. The cityscape of Manhattan sprawled beneath her 28th-floor window, a tapestry of glittering ambition that mirrored her own. She was a partner at a boutique art consultancy, a woman who traded in beauty and rarity. Her life was a carefully constructed masterpiece, and Aether was the final brushstroke, the tool to find a man who was her equal in every way. Successful, sophisticated, cultured. She tapped the app's iridescent icon. The screen loaded, displaying the usual elegant interface. But instead of the customary carousel of impeccably tailored profiles, men holding glasses of Brunello on yachts, men in sharp suits before iconic skylines, men with thoughtful captions about their recent philanthropic endeavors, there was only one. One match. A single, static profile filled the screen. No swiping left or right. No options. Just him. Elara's perfectly sculpted brow furrowed. She knew that face. It was the face she saw when she was taking out her recycling, fumbling with her keys at 7 a.m. It was the face of the man in 4B. Leo, her awkward, tech genius neighbor. The photo was clearly a few years old and looked like a forced corporate headshot. He had a mop of unruly brown hair that seemed to defy gravity and styling products in equal measure. His smile was lopsided, not with charm, but with the discomfort of someone who would rather be communicating in code than facing a camera. He wore a plain, dark t-shirt that was probably from a multi-pack. The bio was brutally succinct. Leo, I build things. Elara let out a sound that was half laugh, half groan. You have got to be kidding me. She stabbed at her screen, tried to refresh the app. Nothing. She force-closed it and reopened it. The same single, infuriating profile stared back at her. Leo from 4B, the man who once tried to explain the thermodynamic properties of his homemade kombucha to her in the elevator for 7 excruciating floors. The man whose idea of a stimulating Friday night was probably debugging a server, not debating the merits of a new Soho house. This is a glitch. A massive, catastrophic glitch, she muttered to her empty, tastefully decorated apartment. She felt a prickle of annoyance, sharp and hot. This was an insult to the very premise of Aether, to her own meticulously crafted profile that highlighted her love for Frieze art fare, her proficiency in Italian, and her collection of vintage Hermes scarves. A soft knock at her door made her jump. Frowning, she padded across the polished concrete floor and peered through the peephole. It was him. Leo stood in the hallway, shifting his weight from one worn sneaker to the other. He was holding his phone, a complicated-looking device with what appeared to be 3 cameras on the back. He looked concerned. Taking a deep breath, Elara pulled the door open. Leo, can I help you? Hi, Elara. Sorry to bother you, he began, his voice a low, pleasant rumble that she had to admit was at odds with his perpetually disheveled appearance. He ran a hand through his chaotic hair. This is going to sound weird, but is your Aether app malfunctioning? Elara crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. You could say that. It seems to think you're my only viable match in a 5-mile radius. A faint blush crept up his neck. Right, so it's not just me. I'm only seeing you. The confirmation sent a fresh wave of disbelief through her. What did you do? Me? He looked genuinely taken aback. Why would you assume I did anything? Because you're a software architect or a code wizard or whatever it is you do for that tech incubator downtown, she said, her tone sharper than she intended. This seems like your kind of domain. Leo's expression shifted from awkward to slightly offended. I build secure financial platforms, not dating app hacks. And for the record, Aether's matching algorithm, Eros 7, is notoriously complex and proprietary. It's hosted on a closed, encrypted server cluster. It's not something you can just glitch on a whim. Elara blinked, processing the technical jargon. So what? It just spontaneously decided we're soulmates. The word hung in the air between them, heavy and absurd. Leo's blush deepened. I don't think it's that. I think there's a genuine system error. A corrupted data packet, a faulty node in their server farm, something. I was just coming to see if you were experiencing the same issue, so I could report it to their tech support with a corroborating ticket. The more data points they have, the faster they can fix it. He was so rational, so infuriatingly practical. Elara, who lived in a world of aesthetics and unspoken social cues, felt a headache brewing. Fine. Report it. Please. The sooner this is fixed, the better. Right. Okay. I'll do that. He gave her a small, awkward nod and turned to leave. Leo, she called out. He turned back, a flicker of hope in his warm, hazel eyes that she immediately decided to ignore. Next time, a text would suffice. The hope vanished, replaced by a familiar, guarded neutrality. Noted, he retreated down the hall to his own apartment, the door closing with a soft click that sounded to Elara like a period at the end of a very strange sentence. 24 hours later, the glitch persisted. Elara had tried everything, restarting her phone, reinstalling the app, even composing a haughty email to Aether support team, detailing the unacceptable failure of their premium service. The only response was an automated reply, thanking her for her patience. Frustration curdled into a low-grade anxiety. Her life was about control, controlling her career, her image, her environment. This glitch was an uncontrolled variable, a bug in her personal matrix, and it had the face of her neighbor. Driven by a potent mix of curiosity and desperation, she decided to do something she never thought she would. She tapped on Leo's profile. The Build Things bio expanded into a slightly more detailed, yet still bafflingly sparse description. Leo, I build things. Sometimes with code, sometimes with wood. I appreciate functional elegance and nonlinear problem solving. Favorite sound, the click of a perfectly fitting joint. Favorite smell, old books and soldering iron. Elara stared at the words. Wood? Soldering iron? It was like reading a profile from another planet. What did any of that have to do with compatibility? With romance? With shared interests in travel and fine dining? Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend, Chloe. Chloe, so? Any movement on the Aether front? I need details. My love life is a barren wasteland of men who still own beanbag chairs. Elara, it's a disaster. The app is broken. My only match is Leo. Chloe. Leo the Kombucha King? From across the hall? No. Elara. Yes. And it won't reset. I'm trapped in a digital hell of my own making. Chloe. Okay, but is he cute? In a nerdy, I could fix him kind of way? Elara looked up from her phone, the question echoing in her mind. Was he? She'd never really allowed herself to consider it. He was just Leo, a fixture in the background of her life, like the mailman or the barista at the lobby coffee shop. But now, forced to look, she reluctantly admitted that his features, when not contorted in social anxiety, were pleasant. Strong jaw, kind eyes. But the perpetual state of sartorial chaos was a hard no. Elara, that's not the point. The point is, the algorithm is broken. It's supposed to find me someone who gets me. Someone who fits. Chloe, and you 100% sure Leo doesn't? I mean, the app is supposed to be psychic, right? Maybe it knows something you don't. Elara, it knows I have a 98% compatibility score with a man who thinks a hot date is a new motherboard. I'm reporting this as a crime. She put her phone down, her gaze drifting back to the unyielding screen of her own device. Leo's profile was still there, a silent, stubborn accusation. What if the glitch wasn't in the code, but in her own perception? The thought was so unsettling, she immediately dismissed it. Later that evening, as she was wrestling with a stubborn cork on a bottle of Pinot Noir, there was another knock. She knew who it was before she even looked. Leo stood there, holding a small, beautifully crafted wooden box. I come in peace, he said, a tentative smile playing on his lips. And I come with a peace offering. I heard you struggling. He held out the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of dark velvet, was a sleek, stainless steel corkscrew. It was an object of stunning, functional beauty, its mechanism looking both simple and incredibly precise. It's a double-hinged lever pull, he explained, his voice losing its awkwardness as he discussed the object. The fulcrum provides optimal mechanical advantage. It should never break a cork. I made the box. Elara was speechless. She took the corkscrew, its weight cool and substantial in her hand. It was the most thoughtful and strangely personal gift anyone had given her in years. It was also completely at odds with the man she thought she knew. "Thank you," she managed, her voice softer than before. "This is incredibly kind. Also came to tell you that Aether support got back to me. They said the Eros 7 algorithm is functioning within normal parameters. They can't find a glitch." The words landed like a physical blow. "What does that mean?" "It means," Leo said, shoving his hands in his pockets, "according to their diagnostics, there is no error. The app is working exactly as designed." The following week was a masterclass in cognitive dissonance. Elara's world, once so clear and ordered, felt fundamentally unstable. Every time she saw Leo, when he was collecting his mail, when he was leaving for his run in ridiculously short shorts, when he was deep in conversation with the delivery drone in the hallway, a little voice in her head that sounded suspiciously like Chloe whispered, 98% compatibility. She found herself noticing things she never had before. The way he always held the elevator door for Mrs. Gable from 3B and her yappy Pomeranian. The fact that his running shoes, though worn, were a specific, expensive brand favored by serious athletes. The gentle patience in his voice when he explained the building's new recycling system to a confused new tenant. One rainy Thursday, disaster struck. The pipes in the ceiling above Elara's pristine, white-on-white bathroom decided to give up the ghost, resulting in a catastrophic leak that left her with a flooded bathroom and a gaping hole in the ceiling. The building superintendent mumbled something about a few days for repairs. Panicked about her apartment and late for a critical meeting with a new artist, Elara was on the verge of tears in the hallway. Her phone pressed to her ear as she tried in vain to get a last-minute plumber. Leo's door opened. He took in the scene. The water seeping under her door, her distress, her futile phone call. "Elara," he said, his voice calm. "Give me your key." "What? Why? I'll handle it. Go to your meeting." She was too flustered to argue. Mutely, she handed him the key. The super said, "I know what the super said. Don't worry about it. Go." She went. The meeting was a blur. All she could think about was the water damage, the ruin of her custom-made vanity, Leo alone in her apartment. When she returned 4 hours later, braced for the worst, she found a miracle. The water was gone. The floor was dry. The hole in the ceiling was covered with a temporary, but expertly fitted piece of plywood. And Leo was on her living room floor, surrounded by a disassembled, complex-looking piece of plumbing hardware. The building's main shut-off valve, she would later learn, and a toolkit that would make a surgeon envious. He looked up, his face smudged with grease, his t-shirt damp. The main valve for this section of the building was corroded. The super's patch job would have just burst again. "I replaced it. You shouldn't have any more problems." Elara stood frozen in the doorway. Her savior wasn't a knight in shining armor, but a knight in a grease-stained t-shirt wielding a wrench. The disconnect between the man in front of her and the awkward neighbor in her mind was so vast, it was dizzying. You didn't have to do all this," she whispered. He shrugged, beginning to pack up his tools with efficient movements. "It was a nonlinear problem. I appreciate a good nonlinear problem." The phrase from his profile echoed in the quiet room. "I appreciate functional elegance and nonlinear problem-solving." She had read it as tech bro gibberish. Now, she saw it for what it was, a core part of his philosophy. He saw a broken system, and his instinct was to understand it, to fix it, to make it elegant again. "Let me at least pay you for the parts," she insisted, her voice thick with an emotion she couldn't name. He shook his head, standing up. "No need, but you can let me take you to dinner." The request hung in the air, simple and direct. It wasn't a line. It wasn't a game. It was an honest question from a man who had just spent his afternoon fixing her catastrophic plumbing problem. Elara's carefully constructed walls, built from years of dating the wrong men and protecting her heart, trembled. The app said they were compatible. His actions today screamed it. And for the first time, she was genuinely curious to find out why. "Okay," she said, the word feeling foreign on her tongue. "Okay, yes. Dinner." A real, genuine smile transformed Leo's face. It wasn't lopsided or awkward. It was warm, open, and reached his eyes, making them crinkle at the corners. In that moment, Elara felt the first undeniable crack in her resolve. Their first date was not at the Michelin-starred restaurant Elara had vaguely imagined. Leo took her to a tiny, bustling Burmese place in the East Village, a spot you'd walk past 100 times without noticing. The air was thick with the scent of lemongrass and turmeric, and the walls were covered in faded movie posters. He didn't try to impress her with grand gestures or rehearsed stories. Instead, he asked her questions. Real questions. Not, "What do you do?" but "What makes you feel most alive?" He listened, truly listened, to her passionate rant about the undervaluation of textile art, his focus entirely on her. He didn't look over her shoulder to see if someone more important had walked in. And he talked, too. He told her about his project, not in dry technical terms, but about the challenge of creating a financial platform that was both secure and accessible, about the elegance of a well-written line of code. He spoke about his woodworking, showing her photos on his phone of a delicate, mid-century modern bookshelf he was building. "It's all about the joints," he explained, his eyes alight. "The hidden connections are what give it strength and beauty." Elara found herself not just listening, but captivated. This was a world of creation and logic, a world where things were built to last, where beauty was found in function and integrity. It was a stark contrast to the often superficial, transactional world of high-end art she inhabited. They talked for hours, long after their plates were cleared. She discovered he had a dry, witty sense of humor that emerged once he felt comfortable. He made her laugh with a story about a client who wanted to name his new fintech startup Dollar Dollar Bill. When he walked her back to their building, the night air cool around them, she felt a sense of calm contentment she hadn't experienced on a date in years. "This was really nice, Leo," she said as they stood outside her door. "It was," he agreed, his hands in his pockets. "For the record, I didn't hack the app." The statement was so out of the blue, so earnest, that Elara laughed. "I believe you." "But," he continued, his gaze steady, "I'm starting to think I should have." Her breath caught. Before she could overthink it, she leaned forward and kissed his cheek. "Good night, Leo." "Good night, Elara." She slipped inside her apartment, leaning against the closed door, her heart pounding. The glitch no longer felt like a prison. It felt like a key. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Coffee in the morning before work. Dinner together a few times a week, sometimes at her place where she'd cook, sometimes at his, where she discovered his apartment was a fascinating chaos of half-finished projects. Books on everything from quantum physics to Japanese joinery, and a surprisingly well-stocked kitchen. He taught her how to make fresh pasta, his hands guiding hers on the roller, and she found a strange joy in the simple, tactile process. She introduced him to a small gallery opening, and instead of being bored, he engaged the artist in a deep conversation about the process of his mixed media installations, asking insightful questions about material tension and structural integrity. He saw art through the lens of an engineer, and it was a perspective Elara, for all her expertise, had never considered. She was happy, genuinely, disarmingly happy. The curated profiles on Aether, once the pinnacle of her aspirations, now seemed flat and one-dimensional. They were resumes. Leo was a story, and she was only just beginning to read it. The turning point came at the annual Innovators Under 35 Gala, an event Elara attended every year for networking. This year, Leo was being honored. She saw him on stage, standing tall in a perfectly fitted suit, a purchase she had subtly guided him towards, accepting his award. He spoke not about lines of code, but about human connection, about building technology that served people, not the other way around. He was articulate, confident, and magnetic. Watching him, surrounded by people who saw his brilliance, Elara felt a surge of pride, so fierce it stole her breath. This was the man the Aether algorithm had seen. This was the man she was falling in love with. Later, as they danced under the soft glow of the ballroom lights. He looked down at her. "You know," he said softly, "I think I figure out the glitch." "Oh," she murmured, her head on his shoulder. "The Eros 7 algorithm. It's not just about shared interests. It's about complementary strengths. It looks for puzzle pieces that fit, not ones that are identical." He pulled back slightly, his gaze intense. "You see the beauty in the world, Elara. You curate it, you celebrate it. I see the structure underneath. I build the frameworks that allow beautiful things to exist and function. We're not the same. We're better. We're a complete system." Tears pricked at Elara's eyes. He had put into words what she had only begun to feel. The app hadn't been broken. It had been brutally, perfectly accurate. It had cut through the noise of her checklist and shown her the one person whose soul genuinely resonated with hers. They were in Leo's apartment, surrounded by the comforting clutter of his life. Elara was helping him sand a new tabletop, the scent of cedar filling the air. Her phone, charging on the counter, chimed with the familiar crystal ping of Aether. She and Leo exchanged a look. The app had been silent for weeks, a forgotten relic. Curious, she wiped her hands and picked it up. The screen was filled with profiles again. Dozens of them. The handsome financier, the charming architect, the globe-trotting photographer. The glitch was fixed. Her heart didn't leap. It sank. She looked at Leo, who was watching her quietly, his expression unreadable. "Well," he asked, his voice carefully neutral. "The world is your oyster again." Elara scrolled through the faces, the perfect bios, the promises of a life she thought she wanted. It all felt so hollow now, so artificial. These were just images on a screen. The real thing was standing in front of her, covered in a fine layer of wood dust, his heart in his eyes. She walked over to him, holding up the phone. Then, with a slow, deliberate smile, she tapped the 3 dots in the corner of the screen, scrolled down, and selected Delete App. The iridescent icon vanished. Leo's face broke into that transformative, crinkle-eyed smile. He pulled her into his arms, his embrace solid and real. "You're sure?" he whispered into her hair. "I've never been more sure of anything," she said, her voice muffled against his chest. "The algorithm was right, but it was only the introduction. We wrote the story." Later that night, curled up together on his sofa, looking out at the same cityscape they had both viewed from their separate, lonely apartments, Elara felt a profound sense of peace. "You know," Leo said, idly playing with a strand of her hair, "I might have looked at the source code for the Eros 7 algorithm after our first date." Elara sat up, staring at him. "You did hack it. Not to change it," he said, laughing. "Just understand it. And you were right. It was a glitch. A 1 in a billion cascade failure in a data node that corrupted the filtering protocol. It was supposed to show you 100 matches, but the error stripped away all the superficial filters, the income brackets, the education fields, the curated interest lists. It left only the core compatibility metric, the one that measures this." He gestured between the two of them. Elara looked at him, this brilliant, kind, wonderfully awkward man who had built a door into her heart using the most unexpected blueprint. The glitch hadn't been a mistake. It had been a revelation. It had stripped away the noise of her life and shown her the one, true, resonant signal. She leaned in and kissed him, a slow, deep kiss that tasted of cedar, possibility, and a future she had never dared to algorithmize. "It was the most beautiful glitch in the history of code," she whispered. "Don't you dare fix it.